and remembering each other's names. How are you? When the soup was almost gone, someone said to the traveler, "You have to tell us. What's the secret to the stone?" The traveler smiled. She reached into the pot, fished out the little stone, dried it on her sleeve, and held it up. "The secret," she said, "is that the stone was never the soup. You were the soup. The stone just helped you remember." And then she handed the stone to the child who had first come over. "Here," she said, "you keep it now. You'll know when to use it." And she picked up her pack and walked on down the road. Now, Reverend Kathy has been holding
One tradition we have here at the UFAC is the sharing of joys and concerns. It's a time to come together and celebrate the highest highs and whenever we need help in our lowest lows. You're invited to briefly share events in your life so that we may support, celebrate, or just be here if you're in need. Please don't share any personal information of others without their permission. In a moment, the off door will be passed around for our monthly Share the Plate. After our song of dedication, our greeters will take it up. Oh, goodness. My script is all off.
Please join now in a spirit of reflection, meditation, and prayer. Abiding Spirit, name beyond all names, love beyond all love. Help us to feel our humanity this morning. Help us to be clear about what work is ours to do. Help us understand that we do not have to have all the answers, nor can we even try to have all the answers. Help us to take the action that we can as we use our voice to urge our leaders towards care and wisdom. May we do all we can to be a force for love right here in our families and our communities. May we in all our living move with a spirit of peace so that we might be an agent of peace for any who encounter us. May it be so. Amen. One of the most special times in the life of a congregation is when we have the opportunity to welcome new members, people who have taken a look at us, checked us out, and decided to throw in their lot with us. At this time, I invite Karen Lauer, our membership chair, up to take us through the new member welcoming ceremony, and also our president, Deborah Baker Ryan.
Now is the time during the service that we honor our newest members and their decision to join our congregation. Each of the following people have expressed the desire to join, and we in our UU Fellowship of the Emerald Coast, as your name is called, please come to the front. Philip De La Sala, Alana Kleisman, and Heidi Kleisman, who's not able to be with us. We encourage you to share with us your creative thoughts, your vital experiences in life, your doubts, and your dreams about what our lives together can be.
It is a joy to welcome each of you as a member into our fellowship. I think Ziggy's name was left out, but he's here with us. That's Philip's son. I encourage you to grow your religious life and to explore and share your unique gifts. Will you journey together with us, celebrating the joys and embracing the responsibilities of membership, including the sharing of your time, your talents, and your resources? If you agree, please say yes. Thank you.
Ilana and Philip We have some gifts for you this morning. These include the Pocket Guide to Unitarian Universalism, which you'll find in it stories and wisdom about what this spiritual path means. We practice a shared ministry, which means we help one another find meaning in life, and we work to build a just and compassionate world together, all in all that fulfilling the mission and vision of our fellowship.
And we also want to welcome Ziggy to our fellowship. He has much to offer, and we embrace him as precious participant in our community. We offer him a welcome gift and look forward to a meaningful future together.
Philip and Ilana, by choosing to become members of our congregation, you're entering into a relationship. Our congregation welcomes you, and you're invited to welcome our congregation into your life. You've made some promises. Now our congregation will make some promises to you. Members of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast, will you reach out to these people in fellowship, including them in activities? Will you walk with them on their spiritual journey? Will you be open to their unique gifts and perspectives? Will you extend a welcome to each of them, remembering that there was a time when each of you stood where they stand today? If so, please join now in the response that's printed in your order of service. Yes, we renew our membership commitments and join our strengths, talents, and resources with yours. You are a part of us, and we are a part of you. Welcome. And now please welcome them with your applause.
It's always one of my favorite parts. After our song of dedication, our greeters will take up the offering. Generosity is a spiritual practice. Our fellowship is supported by pledges and donations. If you're paying your pledge by check today, please make a note of it in the memo line. We also have a tradition called Share the Plate, where we split equally all cash donations and checks not marked as pledges with local charity. For the month of June, our charity is the local PFLAG chapter. If you're not already familiar, PFLAG is the nation's largest organization dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for all LGBTQ+ people and those who love them. Our local Niceville chapter is dedicated to serving the Destin, Fort Walton Beach, Crestview, and Pensacola area, as well as beyond in our local area.
To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to speak, and a time to remain silent. A time to step forward, and a time to stay still. A time to yield, and a time to refuse to go along. A time to say hello and welcome, and a time to say goodbye and Godspeed. Those ancient words from the biblical book of Ecclesiastes are quoted and paraphrased often as an acknowledgement of the ongoing choices between two very different options that come before us moment by moment, all day long, all life long. Some of us will make the same choice, head in the same direction offered by those alternatives every time. Others of us swing back and forth, sometimes choosing the direction that leads to a quieter, simpler option, and other times choosing the direction that calls for being vocal, for taking action. Which describes you most of the time whenever a choice comes before you that offers a contrast between yielding to the wishes of others or going your own way, a contrast between taking action or standing still, staying the course or making changes. Which alternative would most characterize you in the choice you make? I was conditioned in the family I grew up in to always put the needs of others first, to let someone else take the lead, to be quiet rather than speak up. Though many life experiences have called for the more assertive response, my default setting is the path of yielding, and I take it more often than not. What's your default setting? And when life circumstances demand a different response, are you able to summon it up? Because that default setting will not always serve us well. If anything, I believe much of what comes to be our spiritual journey is an ongoing challenge for us to learn other responses than the default setting, so that we round out our way of being in the world and are not predictable, not just doing what we learn to do over and over and over again. If your present search for a minister unfolds in what seems to be the pattern these days, you may be facing into a time, possibly a time longer than anybody wants, when you will be without a minister serving you. I know this is a situation you have experience in managing. The overall health of the congregation is testimony to how well you take care of each other and this place and your resources, regardless of whether you have a minister here or not. Even so, I do have some concern for you in the coming ministerless time, because you are in the throes of a change in who you have historically been as a congregation. Instead of the long-standing makeup of mostly educated, mostly middle or upper class, mostly white, mostly straight people, that has been how you might have been described, you now have a sizable number of persons with varying backgrounds, persons who are pretty diverse economically, people who are neurodiverse, people who come with LGBTQ identities. Instead of the traditionally mostly humanist with a scattering of theists in terms of your spiritual perspectives, you have a thriving pagan contingent and a cups chapter. And as best as I can tell, you're still uncertain about what to do with these changes, how you take them in and how they change who you see yourself, how you see yourself as a congregation. And how, while you value the differences, how to also forge strong connections so that you experience yourself as a cohesive entity. That is actually a wonderful challenge to have. It is also a challenge that will not be navigated by simply being polite, tolerant. It will likely present you with a tension that has always been present in our congregations in some form, a tension like the Ecclesiastes passage presents opposite ways of being, the tension between the will of the group and the will of the individual. Sometimes those alternatives coalesce. Sometimes they pull in utterly different directions. And then what happens? If you wonder what that tension might look like now in your present experience, notice the different ways people choose to sit on Sunday mornings. Some of you in rows, some of you in a circle. Notice who talks to who in the social time after the service. And then notice how you feel about those differences, how you feel about the people who are not sitting as you are sitting, about the people who are not talking to you but talking to others. What does that difference mean to you? Do you find yourself curious about the difference? Fearful of the difference? Annoyed by the difference? It seems to be an inherent quality of our Unitarian Universalist tradition and the kinds of persons who throw in their lot with us that the individual side of those opposite ways of being carries the greater weight. Much of how we function as Unitarian Universalists, many of the ways we talk about our spiritual path and organize our congregations and do our work, places a greater value on the individual conscience, on the individual in fact, and pretty much everything. We insist that the individual discerns what is true spiritually. We start out our 7 principles, those core statements of who we are, with a clear commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of the individual. We never quite get around to a similarly strong affirmation of the inherent worth of the community. All of which means that when it comes time to move a group forward, whether a small group or a committee doing its work, or a project, or a congregation taking up a covenant, or discussing a major financial decision, or a denomination hoping we will support it with dues and attendance at denominational gatherings, all the kinds of group actions that we take as Unitarian Universalists in community, those tend to be harder than they might otherwise be had we not again and again put our first emphasis on the individual. So we talk often of the challenge of working collectively as the challenge of herding cats, laughing when we say it because we know that image is all too true. Yet I can tell you that the humor is mostly superficial, and the frustration under the humor runs deep. We have been hampered again and again in the power of our witness as a spiritual community in the world, and the strength of what we might be able to do within our congregations to build and support people of spiritual depth and compassion by being far more interested in remaining unhurtable cats than in getting something done. Now, none of us wants to simply trample on individuals who are standing apart, asserting their individual right of conscience as grounds for disagreeing with a direction being proposed. We have each found ourselves at some time in that lonely place of standing apart, convinced that a majority is about to make a terrible mistake. When is it conscience? And when is it my ego, my old habit of wanting what I want when I want it, no matter what anybody else wants? When can we trust the wisdom of a group that emerges in a fair discussion and the democratic process? And when should we truly be suspicious of what a group is out to do? As Abraham Lincoln was pondering whether and when to announce the Emancipation Proclamation, he spoke to an interdenominational clergy gathering about the profound difficulty of choosing between mutually exclusive paths. Lincoln said, "In great contests, each party claims to act in accordance with the will of God. I am approached with the most opposite opinions and advice, and that by religious people who are equally certain that they represent the divine will. These are not, however, the days of miracles, and I suppose I will be granted that I'm not to expect a revelation. I must study the facts of the case, ascertain what is possible, and learn what appears to be wise and right. The subject is difficult, and good people do not agree." In our present climate of polarization, we have no shortage of persons, including persons in government and persons tasked with overseeing operations in the Iran conflict, claiming to act in accordance with the will of God, some quite explicitly, others tacitly when particular supreme values are invoked. But few, if any of us, expect some kind of miracle or revelation to burst forth and make clear what the best choices would be. Many seem to believe that speaking louder than anybody else or typing your message in all caps will somehow carry the day, as though volume and intensity are signs of being right. And still the conclusion Lincoln reaches remains true. The issues before us are difficult, and good people do not agree. Sometimes we're tempted to say that anyone who disagrees with us is not a good person, but at the end of the day, that view doesn't hold. You may make me furious when you disagree with me, but can I truly go from that disagreement to concluding that you're not a good person? And if I can hold on to the view that you are in fact a good person, then how do I understand our disagreement? Two good persons disagreeing both have good perspectives to offer. How do you choose one over the other without trying to cast one option as evil or bad or wrong or stupid or too conservative or too liberal or not the way we've always done things in this congregation, and instead hold fast to the willingness to grant that both parties are good people and both options are good options? Unitarian Universalist churches, in accordance with our tradition of congregational polity, set the ultimate authority for decisions in you, the congregation. And congregations tend to make decisions by voting. The board votes its decisions, committees may vote their decisions. On big matters, the entire congregation votes. Well, I've seen mostly unanimity in the time I've known you. I imagine that's not always the case, that some of your votes have come with winners and losers. When the matter isn't a matter you're voting on, how do you decide? Especially when that matter is a question of whether or not to change a way of doing things. Changing the seating for Sunday mornings, changing how kitchen duties are done, changing the art in the sanctuary. Do you vote on such matters? And what does it mean to win when those matters are up for a decision? And what happens to the people whose perspective loses? How do you determine what elements of congregational life must never change? What elements can change just a little bit? What elements can completely be set aside? The changes in the makeup of your membership has changed and seems likely to continue changing. Do these new people, those we welcome today, those I've seen you welcome several times over the course of this year, do the new people step into an unchanging system, a flexible system? And exactly how they are informed of what can change and what cannot change, who delivers that information to them? Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there lies a field. I will meet you there. This observation from Rumi, a 13th century Sufi master, points to a place or perspective beyond the tug and tension of conflicting choices, a possibility for meeting, for reconciliation that does not require choosing sides, a way of finding a life in common that probably is what people are looking for when they walk in our doors the first time. To enter that field Rumi describes requires an exceedingly difficult first step. A first step that is hard to take after all our focus on individual autonomy in our liberal tradition, a focus our culture heightens even more when it encourages us to find some way to stand out from the crowd, a focus the political climate feeds with messages of fear of immigrants and gun regulation and government oversight and anything whatsoever that seems like it could take away an element of individual choice. That first step is an actual step. I have to step away from my individual perspective, not give it up, just set it aside. Step out of it for a moment and look at things from the perspective of the whole. Can I forget, just for a moment, what I want and consider the larger needs, many of which are not at all my needs, the larger needs for the community of which I am a part is hurting, and spend a moment, just a moment, wondering what will best address those needs, what might heal those hurts. Can I listen just for a moment to what my opponent is saying without having already decided that everything coming out of their mouth is ridiculous? Can I look beneath all the words and ideas and see what the other person is truly intending? Can I stop being focused on making sure my needs are covered and ask myself what the other person needs? Nothing in all that requires me to change my mind, to shift my position, to throw my weight onto the other side. Nothing. Rather, Rumi calls us just to park our prized opinions of wrongdoing and right doing and walk over to an open field and hang out there for a bit. Those opinions of wrongdoing and right doing will still be right where we left them. But perhaps they will look and feel and sound different when we go back to pick them up, as a result of having spent some time in an open field with people we are convinced are absolutely wrong in what they say and do. The subject is difficult, and good people do not agree. As this congregation probably moves into a time without a minister on staff, that is not a new experience for many of you, but it is a new experience for some of you. And it is never an easy experience, even when you have practice at it. You have choices ahead that are profound ones, choices about who you will be as a congregation, given how the makeup of the congregation has changed, how you will function as a congregation within these walls, what voice you most want to raise in the community around you, the ongoing choice in church life that comes before us all the time. What do we stop doing here? What do we keep doing here? What should we start doing here? Stop, keep, start. The state of our culture and our country puts before us daily difficult choices that again and again tempt us to forget that the subject is difficult and that those who disagree with us are good people, even in the midst of disagreement. We can jump into that polarization with both feet because righteous indignation is a wonderfully empowering feeling. We can join in vilifying those who disagree with us in their pig-headed opinions. Or we can counter that perhaps automatic response and instead head off for Rumi's field again and again. Pause and reflect. Maybe decide that meeting the other out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing will be our priority. Not being persuaded, not persuading, simply meeting. As you go forward as a congregation, I hope you will look for that meeting place wherever you find yourselves and be willing to be the first person to step into it. Commit to making this place a meeting place like that as well, where ideas of wrongdoing and right doing are frequently set over to the side, and you begin by listening and looking closely at one another. All of us are flawed human beings, and all of us are really good people, far more than the sum of any single opinion. Unique, precious, powerful. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn is 1064 in the teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home. The words will be on the screen overhead. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing.
In the words of Caitlin Carter Cullyberg, beloveds, may love guide you on your journey forward. Joy meet you at every turn, and hope be your daily practice. May gratitude companion you, compassion embolden you, and open-hearted courage be your unending choice. May peace challenge you, dear ones, generosity empower you. May you know in every day that you are enough exactly as you are, and you are not alone. Blessed be, Ashe, and farewell.
Irish theologian Padre Otuama has written about a Gaelic saying, which I will not attempt to pronounce because I could not do it justice, but it translates as, "In the shelter of each other, the people live." I want you to know that it has been a joy for me to be in your shelter for a time, and a privilege to be part of the shelter you give to one another for a time. I wish for you to continue to be that shelter, the shelter where people can come in here and find life, a shelter for one another, that your life may be more abundant than ever. In the shelter of each other, the people live. Please remain seated for a very special postlude this morning. food.